Welcome to TechPoutine.
Bonjour tout le monde. Welcome to TechPoutine podcast. Thank you very much for attending. It's a bit of an experiment, so this is going to be very scrappy. The sound might not be that great, but we're really happy that Phil and StartupFest allowed us to do this little bit of a live podcast experiment. And before we get going, I just want to introduce our guest, Sophie Boulanger, that took time out of her busy schedule. If you don't know Sophie, she founded this company called Boulanger that you might be familiar with. Great success story, and that's what we're going to really talk about today. And maybe I'll kick it off with the first question for you, Sophie. We first met in 2012, I believe. It was like a dark room in where you were pitching for investors, and I'm very happy that I accepted. You're pitching to Ange Québec. I want to go back to that moment where obviously you're early in your career, you're starting the company. Are there any lessons that you quickly come to mind, back then when you were like literally 3 people and a PowerPoint to today where it's like, I see Bo, look at the metro.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here today. So, we did meet at this Ange Québec pitch, and for us, Ange Québec was they were great partners. They were our first institutional or more structured investors, and definitely, I think it's just putting yourself out there as much as possible at the beginning. And I'm always surprised when some entrepreneurs or founders is like, "Oh, I'm not going to tell you about my idea because almost afraid of someone that will copy it." And I think it needs to be the reverse. You need to just be out there as much as possible, socialize your idea, get exposed to as many different coaches, mentors, pitching your idea to investors in order to get feedback. So Ange Québec was kind of the start of that for us, So it was a big learning experience.
Was that the first time that you raised capital at the beginning for Boulanger, or had you had that experience before?
So we started the business with some love money. We emptied our RSPs and BDC. So I think BDCs is often there very early on for entrepreneurs. So we got that famous at the time. The amount was 50,000, I think, that we could get. You would obviously sign personally your life.
Personal guarantee, yeah.
Personal guarantee, but we started with around 200K or something, 250, and then Ange Québec was really the first time we raised close to 1.5 with them at the time. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
It's a great story, I find, because there's so many different inflection points and different growth. Like obviously, I was on the board, so I saw some of those moments. What would you say are the big, let's say, crucible moments, the moments in that journey that you recall kind of changed the trajectory of the company?
Yeah, so many. So I initially founded the company with a woman called Mélanie Daigle. So we founded the company together. A big crucible moment was convincing my brother to join us, who's a software engineer. So I think having the right team and the right team of founders is really crucial to the success of the company. We really needed a person with a tech background. So convincing my brother was kind of my best move, I should say.
Your first pitch, your first sale, crucial sale.
To him. Yeah, exactly. And then pivoting, we were just online at first, but we were really seeing the market move towards a hybrid model for D2C, retail companies. So it was really like kind of believing in our instinct that we needed this hybrid model of physical and digital retail, and kind of pushing for that is really what, kicked off the growth of the company.
Can you talk a little bit about that transition? Because I know a little of the story, but you took a really smart approach around getting into physical. You didn't just open up a 5,000 square foot retail location in the Eaton Center. You really took an iterative approach.
Yeah. So it's the MVP approach, basically. So we obviously didn't have the funds to go and open a large store. And we wanted to kind of test our hypothesis about that physical, that need to have a physical retail space. So we started with, I think at first we were just doing shopping nights at the office where we would advertise on Facebook was super big back then. So we would advertise on Facebook and people would show up. Then that worked pretty well. We opened the showroom in our office. That worked pretty well. We opened the kiosk downtown Montreal. We managed to negotiate a short-term lease. So I think it's always kind of finding the way to test at the lowest cost possible.
Right. And was it really the reality of budget, or was it something intuitively or someone that told you, take that approach, start very small? Because it was really creative. A lot of people in retail, they would think the first thing to do is, I need a store. I need footprint in a high traffic area.
I'd say it was kind of both, but honestly, we just didn't have money. We ended up raising with Walter Capital once we had those 2-3 stores as a test to our hypothesis, and they were pretty good stores in like very large established malls. But before that, we didn't have any money, so like we opened the store in Carrefour Laval with a convertible debenture that I scraped money from like family board members. André Forêt put some money, and it was kind of like la dernière chance, the last chance. But I believed in it so much, I was just like, we're gonna go for it, hopefully. And then just money started coming in, and then we had something to show to Walter, and then the guys from Walter were like, okay, we got something, and then we opened 40 of them afterwards.
Amazing.
So.
Well, such great lessons, Sophie, that you're imparting. And I remember you mentioned the physical and the digital, because I remember when we started work together, it was only e-commerce, and you're getting most of your sales actually from the US. But then when you open retail in Canada, you actually saw a bump in e-commerce as well in Canada, right? So this notion of synergies between both. And I also love the scrappiness. So like, I'd like to hear you a little bit about like experimentation. Because I forget what the name of the tool you had built, but at the time it was super innovative, right? Being able to measure, like a person's face via the webcam. It was kind of clunky, but at the same time, it's like, oh, maybe this will work. And then obviously, you're trialing and failing, and then trying again. So maybe some lessons around experimentation.
Yeah. And I used to say to my team a lot, and I still say to this day in my new job, and it's better done than perfect. So just like get it done, just like and then refine it. And I think it starts in retail, but in any field, it starts with understanding the need of the customer and the customer journey to be able to buy your product, and where are the main friction points. So we really analyze what it is to buy a pair of eyeglasses, and what are the main friction points about the online journey. And it was mostly trying on. And there was another friction point with measurements and prescription. So we really worked to alleviate these friction points as much as possible. And the physical retail outlets and stores were really designed just to answer those specific friction points. So we had most of our clients would pre-shop online and come to the store for the friction point of the trying on and the measurement with the optician or the optometrist. But then a lot would be done online, prior to the visit. So the visits to the stores were very efficient. So I think it always comes back to understanding what the client really wants, and put yourself in, have compassion for their journey. It's always been my method, and I think it works in any field, not just retail. But I'm in SaaS right now, and I'm asking myself the same questions. So
we were talking a little bit about this before. When you're building a business that has a real offline component, there's much more complexity than a pure software company. How did you, if you can remember back at the initial starting point and you're thinking, we're going to build this company, how did you break down that initial path? And what tips can you give to entrepreneurs that are kind of staring into the abyss and they have a vision for something, about kind of getting going and executing on that?
So a few things. So I think when you're a newcomer, yes, you don't have the strength of the leaders of the industry, but you don't have all the legacy that you're carrying. These guys often carry legacy of large softwares or business structures that are quite heavy, and they have a hard time. Never underestimate the incapacity of a industry leader to transform. And I think it's as a startup and a newcomer, you can really capitalize on that and kind of change and come up. For example, for us, we just decided from the get-go, it sounds it sounds trivial, but we decided not to manage any cash. All the retail stores, like cash management is such a big operational issue. For us, it was like no cash management, no in-store inventory management. So we kind of design our ideal store operation in a leaner way than traditional retail. And my second recommendation is really surround yourself with leaders and people that have done it before. So I had on my board once Walter Capital joined. I had Anna Martini, who was a president of Dynamite alongside with Andrew Lutfi for many years. So a retail veteran, really knew how to operate stores, build stores. So if it's been done before well by other people, just manage to, get information from them instead of spending months and months, making costly mistakes by yourself. So surround yourself with people that can coach you, be open to listening. So
Amazing. And how do you have a framework, or how do you approach thinking about this balance? You were talking about done is better than perfect. In an industry like glasses, you can't put a crappy looking pair of glasses on someone's face. How do you decide what needs to actually be perfect versus what is okay halfway?
yeah, that's a good question. And I think it's a matter of focus. And when you have a startup that starts, getting a bit of speed and success, the issue is managing to stay focused, because so many opportunities open up to you. So, I can start doing this and that. And for us, it was, for example, like the whole spectrum of type of prescriptions or eye conditions that we could cater to. And we decided to stay very focused to a specific type of lenses, for example, and then type of demographic that we would serve really, really well. And kind of, at least for the beginning, forget this other demographic and type of lenses, allowing us to be excellent in one thing.
All right. So the focus was really important. And it sounds like, just in the way that you're describing your journey, the priority of the consumer was always first. And so anything that I presume touches the consumer needed to be at a certain level, but things behind the scenes maybe could be a little bit stitched together with duct tape.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people that have been with us at the team at Bonlook could surely testify to that. But there's an energy, to always being in motion and kind of growing. But yeah, definitely. I think you nailed it.
Well, you've already imparted, I think, so many great lessons. And I want to maybe get back to a question about advice you give to maybe younger founders. But I'd like to ask you, what have you been most proud of now that you've exited the business, but the company's still running and growing? And like, I walk into Boulanger stores, like, so yeah. Question to in terms of a bit of perspective, like what what are you proud of?
So I'm definitely proud that the stores are still. I was 2 days ago in one of our stores on Notre Dame and near Atwater Market, and it's still the same employees. So it's great to see, that the brand that we built is resilient and strong, and we sold it to great partners that are all across Canada, but that really took great care of the brand here in Quebec and Ontario. So that's definitely, a big pride for me. As an entrepreneur, we're as entrepreneurs, we're builders. So for me, I really enjoy just building with a team, creating jobs, creating just prosperity for Montreal. So I think it's my biggest pride, and for sure I'll keep, going for I'm just early 40s. So I'll keep going at it for a few decades for sure, and building on my experience. Now I feel it would take me a fraction of the time it took me to build Bonlook, to build my next things for sure.
When you mentioned, like now you're on, let's say, your second, third generation of startups, when younger founders approach you, what advice, what lessons do you give them?
I think it's to be open, to be mentored and coached. To be coachable, I think, is an amazing skill. To be open-minded, to change your mind and listen is one of the greatest skill. And at the end of the day, a lot of the people that succeed, it's you're able to listen, to sense the shifts in your industry, in your market, however you need to pivot. And it's the ones that are the most resilient. It's kind of a fine line between resilience and madness sometimes, but it's often the ones that are the most resilient. And to be resilient, it's good to have a strong network around you of co-founders or family or employees or other friends that are so involving yourself in the startup ecosystem. I had a great co-founder in my brother. It was just very sticky to work with my brother. I would have never let down my brother and vice versa, so you just really keep at it when you have a tight network around you.
You've touched a little bit about surrounding yourself with good people. Could you talk a little bit about the importance for you of role models? I think you came from a family that had entrepreneurs and not in the immediate family, but surrounding. How have role models played an important life?
So for sure, I think for a lot of people to project themselves into a future job or occupation or role, if you're not shown that role, if you can't project yourself as a young person, it's very hard to be able to dream and envision yourself in that role. So being surrounded, for sure, it shaped me seeing. So I have uncles that are successful tech entrepreneurs, and from a very early age, I saw them doing their businesses, and it was very inspiring. So for sure, I think right now, I'm 43 now. So like in the 80s, growing up, entrepreneurs, you didn't really talk about it. When I graduated McGill, the good jobs were the jobs you would get at large corporations. So there was no talk of startup, of entrepreneurship that much. I think now it's more in the public discourse, and there's more visibility. And I think it's great because people can actually see what entrepreneurship is, what building a business is, and kind of project themselves. So it's super important.
Sophie, we're almost done on time. I'd ask a final question on my end. I don't know if we have a minute and a half. People want to learn more, reach out, connect. What's the best way?
For sure, LinkedIn is just a great way to connect with me. I would say LinkedIn. I'll be around today, so just come and see me. But yeah.
Thanks so much for taking the time and sharing your learnings. Also, I saw on your LinkedIn, you have some links to some other podcasts that you've done. Definitely go check them out. Really great advice and great learnings that you shared. So thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm a little biased. I love Sophie, the work that that you've done. I just want to take a moment to thank you publicly. Maybe a quick round of applause for Sophie. Bonjour tout le monde. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Hey, very happy to have today with us on this live podcast. We have Julie Lacasse. So
Hello.
a warm round of applause for Julie, please.
Woo-hoo.
Hey.
I applaud for myself.
So I'm just a little biased, but I love Julie. She's amazing. She's a rock star. We're really happy that she accepted to do this podcast with us.
Thank you.
She started this company. Her and her conjoint Simon started a company called Tractic, and that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk a lot about the founder journey. That Julie, really from the inception of the company. So maybe walk us through, Julie, if it's okay with you, just the founding story, how the company got started.
Yeah, maybe I can jump in. I heard a rumor that the idea for Tractic came up in a bar in Florida.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So there's a guy that walked into a bar and came out with a company, right?
That sounds like the start of a joke, right?
It does. But no, it's true. It's true. So Simon, my significant other, so we were a couple founding Tractic. And so Simon's a developer. and he was in Florida at this bar, and this guy kept having shooters. And Simon's like, what's making you drink so much? And he's like, well, I have a security company. My guards are never there. They never show up on time. And Simon was like, you don't have a piece of software that tells you your guards are there? He goes, yeah, I have real time. My clients call me in real time to tell me my guards are not there. And so he was like, really? There's nothing that exists. And so the guy was, no. And Simon's like, there's NFC technology that came out. I'm going to build something, a prototype, and I'm going to come back and show you guys. And the guy was like, yeah, that's never going to happen. No one has ever resolved our problem. And so that's how it started. So he came home and really started like looking into this and started building the mobile applications, the guard tour, essentially for guards to clock in and out, do their reporting and stuff like that. And so that guy actually became our client as well.
I love that story. So entrepreneurs always be looking for opportunities, even in bars. And if
Correct.
people are drinking heavily, they probably have a big problem.
They probably didn't remember him when he came back, but they were really happy for the solution.
I want to talk a lot about the journey. Like, talk to us about the first customer. How did you guys actually have like a paying customer that signed up and used TrackTech, and maybe explain what TrackTech does at a second level?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the first customer story is funny as well.
I heard there's a funny story for that as well.
There's always funny story with us. We decided to build the company and we said the mojo in French is on le fait. And so that's how we did it. Every time we had an issue, we always said on le fait. And then we did it. But the first client actually found us on Google. He was looking for guard tour management software. And so we had kind of exposed ourselves out there. But the inbound came in from Timor. Like, do you guys know where Timor is?
Yeah, I had to look at a map before the talk.
So that was one of our first clients that actually came in from Timor and that registered themselves and started using TrackTech right off the bat. And so there was this client and then the one in Florida. And obviously one of our big early adopter was Garda here in Montreal, which really helped us build more of the software. So for those who don't know about what TrackTech does, so on top of the guard management or guard tour management, mobile applications that guard uses to do their round. So essentially boots on the ground. They will go around, clock in, do their tour, scan checkpoints, so NFC checkpoints where reports would pull up and then they would complete with pictures and things like that. Goes all the way up to the web app, web cloud. And out there, the security agencies are able to also do their scheduling, payroll, and billing inside. So they can orchestrate all of their operations, if you can say. So it's kind of a small ERP for security companies. And then later down the road, we added a module of dispatch and mobile. So a lot of security companies were becoming mobile. So instead of having many guards in a place, they would have guards in a car that would go from one place to the other and do a lot of different functions out there. So
when you talk about it, it sounds like a massive platform. I'm sure it's developed over time. Can you talk a little bit about how your team took that first initial idea and determined what is the smallest product we can build to go to market?
So the first part that came in and what we sold first was the guard tour management. I think a lot of the security companies were looking for guard tour mobile applications. And that's the core of their business, right? So if their guards are not there, they're not showing up on time, that's what they need to know. A lot of people just didn't know and say, like, with geolocation, they could see that their guards were actually at McDonald's eating fries instead of or they were sleeping on the job. And it was also for security purposes because there was like an alarm that you could, so if anything would happen, you could start a webcam on the mobile applications. And so a lot of stories came out of that as well. But the guard tour management is what really kicked us off.
So that was the core kind of main problem that you went after.
Absolutely. Right. Every security company needed that. Afterwards, sometimes they already had other back-end or back-office software they were using. So some of them were using TrackTech from a mobile application standpoint, but using a different company from a back-end perspective. And some of them would take the whole suite, right? So really we wanted to do land and expand our clients. So like get them on guard tour and then let's see how we can really fit all of their operations inside of the system.
Kind of one question, two parts. You raised, I believe, 4 rounds of venture capital financing. You had Inovia, you had Caisse de Dépôt, Georgian partners.
Yep.
What was it that made you decide that this is going to be a venture scale play that gave you that confidence? And then also maybe lessons for any founders in the room looking to raise VC. So
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we did raise a 4 round of investment. We started, the first round was in 2014 in February. Me and dates and numbers, that's me. And so February 2014, essentially what happened is that Simon went to pitch, I think it was at Founder Fuel then, and just wanted to see if he would get traction for the software. And so he met Adrian Schauer then, who's the CEO of Alaya Care. And from there started the stories. And Adrian was like, well, meet with our friends, Class Capital out of Toronto, and they would be willing to invest in the company. And we already had traction. We already had like 15,000 MR around that time. That came inbound, right? So we knew it was growing faster than we could, and we needed to hire people to sell and to support clients that we already had. And so that's how it started. Simon looked at me and he goes, are we keeping this like a low-key business, or are we going all in? And then we said, on le fait. And so we went all in, and Class Capital came in with a small round of investment to begin with. And then Inovia came in 6 months later. So essentially, we were still rapidly growing. We already had double our MR by then. And so Devin No from Inovia came and said, like, we want to be part of it as well. And so Inovia and Class came in 2014 together to help us really kind of grow a business. So the first 2 investment for us was to hire people, make sure we hired the right people, which you still make mistakes all the time, but you go with that. And then the next 2 rounds came way later. So we became profitable in 2015 and didn't raise until 2017 with Caisse de Dépôt Placement and Inovia. And that's when we wanted to start our international expansion. And by international, not meaning we didn't have already international clients, but like how do we actually set up operations abroad? And then in 2019, we raised with Georgian partners, and that was mostly from an AI perspective and from a software development perspective. And so every time we raised, we kind of had a specific goal to achieve. But all through that, it was like just sell, and increase revenue, right?
Would you recommend for entrepreneurs to, if possible, try to build and get product market fit before raising? It sounds like when you raised even your first round, you already had validated the need for the product.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important for entrepreneurs to kind of put themselves out there and get clients and people that believe in what they do and actually proving that it solves something for them or that there's a need out there. Start getting revenue and don't stop selling to raise capital. I mean, if you can do both at the same time, try, but sell, because it's kind of the most validated point for even VC to come in to say, like, there's sales ongoing, there's actually attraction here, there's a market fit, and there's possibility for expansion, because it takes a lot of time to raise capital, right? It takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, and meanwhile, you're putting everything else on the side. So I think if you can find that balance, great. But otherwise, like, just go head first and go for the sales.
Beyond the capital side, I see you as someone that has like elite level operational skills. So beyond the specific tactics of like organizational structure or hiring, have you distilled any key operating principles, rules that you like to follow that are a little bit more timeless than, let's say, specific advice? So curious to hear.
Specific advice, do everything at the same time. It's not going to happen. But flexible, like stay flexible, adaptability. I mean, things will come your way where you'll need to adjust, adapt, and you need a team that's ready to turn the boat around as well at the same time as you. So find people with the same passion as you that are able to do that. One thing that I always say when I speak with entrepreneurs, there's like 3 types of different people that will join your business. And the first one are mostly entrepreneur and entrepreneur. So they're the people that say, oh, look, there's an island, let's build the boat and get on that island, right? And so what they like to do is always build and always build more and try to get across that island. But they get bored on that island when you start building the foundations of the village that you're trying to build. So it's a different kind of people that will come in and kind of set that foundation. And then there's a third layer of people that say, okay, now we're going to put the rules in our village and we're going to really build the structures and things like that. But then the entrepreneurs, they get bored, right? On being there and like red tapes everywhere and things like that. So we want to go back and build another boat and get to another island, right? So how do all of those people like coexist together, right? So I think that's really important to know where or what stage you're at within your business, because we don't have, or all of these different people don't have the same ambitions. And so you need to make sure that you're able to kind of adapt for all of that, right? So
I love the analogy. I can visualize it. It's a really good one. You talked about flexibility, which is really important for startups and entrepreneurs. How do you balance that with some, like having some things that are kind of like will not change related to the vision? Are there some things that you shouldn't be flexible?
I think everything evolves, right? So you got to look at it in a way that, yeah, that's how we started it. I think the core of your software remains the same, but then how do you build on top of it and things like that? How do you build your team? So I don't think things don't change. I think things evolve along the way, and you got to be really open-minded about it. Well, your finance should be going up and not down. So I think
That shouldn't change.
that shouldn't change. But you're building a business, right? You're there to make money as well. You're not there to make a nonprofit. So that's really important. But I think it evolves. I think and you have to be open for it to evolve. And yes, you have a mission when you start, and yes, you have a vision, but that will also continue to grow.
So everything's on the table in terms of changing. You
Everything's on the table.
have to find a path to that product market fit and grow.
Yeah.
Well, you spoke about adaptability. I'd be curious to hear you as a leader, where I imagine having gone from like 0 to 40 million recurring in like 5 years, like you had to change a lot as a leader, I imagine, and grow. What did you learn in that lesson? Like, did you think about yourself and from an introspection, how to grow as a person?
You got to grow fast. Let me tell you that. We had 2 kids at the same time, right? So I became a mother and a business owner, and I had to touch all sorts of different departments at the same time. A lot of things I did not know that I had to learn. So I think it's really taking the time to retrospect on yourself as well and being like, okay, we did this, now that's where we're at. And really take, how can I say this? The best out of you to put out there, but surround yourself with people that are way better than you, because they will help you grow. And that's a mistake often people make. They just hire someone for the position. No, hire people that are like way above you, because they'll make you grow way more than you can think. And I've read books and things like that, but I think I found more of growing through other entrepreneurs that I met in different portfolio companies from the VCs we had. So I was always reaching out, like looking on the website of some of our VCs and being like, oh, who's that company? I've never talked to them. And then introduce me to like client success chief officer over there. I want to talk to that person. And that's how I learned from people that were a stage a bit further than us, let's say, in the growth. And you cannot pause it. You always need to learn more, because the company's growing sometimes way faster than you imagine. And you didn't think you had the skills for it, but then you just surround yourself with great people, talk to other leaders that have done it before, and then continue to go through.
Yeah, that's a great tip. A lot of people don't think about that as the value add of working with a VC, the portfolio companies and the executives within those companies.
Incredible. Yeah.
Super valuable.
Yeah.
But often you have to be proactive, right? The VC isn't necessarily going to make the connections. You kind of have to be like looking for that support.
Oh, absolutely. I think you need to get out there and you need to go on those websites and look at portfolio companies. And even if you don't know them, send an introduction on LinkedIn. Hi, I've started my business, this, that. I would like to talk about X, Y, and Z. Who's the best person for me to talk to? And don't be afraid. Like, I mean, my door's always open. I receive a lot of message and I take time from like with people I've never met in my life. And they're just like, I want to spend like 15 minutes with you just to talk through an idea. And we're here for that, right? I think to support each other. And so be proactive in that sense, 100%.
Now that you're post-exit, obviously great exit, beyond the monetary gain, like what's been the most rewarding on the journey, right? Reflecting back now with a little bit of perspective.
I think the journey itself was incredible. Say, let's be honest. I think the culture we've built, the people we worked with. There's so many people that I've left, let's say along the way, or that we saw. I think still talk to a lot of people I've worked with personally. I'm a big people person, but that was extremely rewarding. Like people calling me back and say like, I've had the best years of my life working with you guys. And if ever you guys start to build a new business, like count me in, we're coming back. And I think that just proves that we had the right people to build that company, and the journey for everyone was rewarding. And I think that's my best reward along that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I found that's always the best signal is, would you work with this person again? And if so, then that says a lot about you and your company.
Yeah, 100%. And some people took different paths along track take, and they decided to go, and like not once did I not refer them to a new employer either. And I think some people decide to move on, and you should always be thankful for the time they've provided within your business. And so you keep contact that way, and then it just keeps on helping growing the ecosystem as well, right?
Yeah, it's a hard thing because you get very attached and you want people to stay in the journey, and it can feel like a reflection on you. But the reality is you're on a journey for a short time, and then we all kind of go on our own separate journeys.
Yeah. Maybe a leading question, but what's next?
Well, I think you know. So I've been in the ecosystem, I mean, for a really long time. I spent for the last 4 years really helping other entrepreneurs, doing a lot of mentorship, being involved in accelerators, incubators, and things like that. And then at one point, I met these guys from Amiral Ventures, and I sat down with them. Obviously, I want to invest. I believe in their thesis. I believe in what they've built, and I believe in each of them individually. And then I said, I'm interested in the VC side of things. Like, I mean, we raised for a round, and to me, the first term sheet that we got, Simon and I looked at each other and we go, do you know what this is? No, you? No. Do you know what's written? No, me neither. Should we call a lawyer? Like, literally, we had no idea what we were signing, and we didn't want to sell our souls either, right? So we wanted to take the time to do that. But I've been curious about like how we invest and like the due deal aspect of finding the right companies for a thesis. And I believe that VCs, when they're close to their entrepreneurs, can make a huge difference in their growth. And so that's what I am exploring now. So I've joined Amiral as a venture partner with Nectar and with Fred and with Dominic. And so I'm super excited to learn that, find companies, look at due deals, and continue to learn. So I'll get the full 360 for.
Julie, unfortunately, we're out of time. I think we could have taken like another hour. Julie, merci beaucoup. A warm round of applause, please.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you guys for having me. Merci.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to TechPoutine. If you like the show, please subscribe or leave a review. Please subscribe or leave a review.